Hello guys, this is Brian Tubbs coming at you with another video. Today I'm working on a new piece. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like when I'm finished, but I just had some some scrap metal laying around, so I took it out. I have a bin over here. I took it out of the bin, just laid it on the floor just to see what I can come up with. I needed, some metal for a pedestal, so I had a couple pieces that were, maybe 48 inches tall, cut on an angle. So I had to go in and try and find enough room on the pieces to make, a base for the piece I'm thinking about making. Or I'm going to make it. I just don't know what it's going to look like. So let me get you guys a close-up view of kind of what I'm thinking about. I just kind of drew something out. So if you guys can see, this picture is really light, so you can probably barely see it. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about doing. Something like that. Like I said, hopefully you guys can see this. Like I said, it's really coming through light on the camera. But it's Corten, and this is the base I'm trying to make. Normally my bases are on an angle on all four sides. Since I only have a small amount of metal, I'm going to make the front and rear on this angle, and then the sides will be just a straight flat piece of metal, welded to the sides. I'm thinking about doing some kind of arms. And this is kind of like a bowl shape. Then I'll put either a circle or a hammered copper and stainless steel circle, something on top. I don't know yet. I'm just playing around. So I'm just in the middle of just kind of playing around with it. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm just came with a couple ideas. Just wrote them down on my art sketch pad, which I rarely do. I do it sometime, but not often. Most of the time I'll just start working on something. But I figured last night I would just sit down and start kind of sketching out, because it was kind of hard to get my focus. So I just started sketching that piece out, and like I said, I just started rummaging through some of my old scrap metal just to see what I had. And I'll pan the camera down just so you guys can kind of see what I'm dealing with. And so these are some of the pieces that I had. This piece was just one solid piece. This piece was attached to it as well. It was like this, and this piece was connected there. And then this piece on this side was connected to the rear side. And so this is a front or rear. And then they also had this piece laying around in some other scrap. So this will be the opposite side of this. And then this piece will be on one of the sides. And then I'm going to have to weld up a piece for the other side, because I didn't have enough metal to do both sides. So this piece of metal and this piece of metal not the same length. So what I'm going to have to do is add a piece to this piece to make the same length as this one. This is the right size. This one was short, so I'm going to have to add a piece to it. And so I cut a piece of metal, a piece of scrap, from one of these pieces I had, and so I have to make another piece to go on here. So what I'm gonna be doing today is just kind of welding the pieces together in this video, and then as you know, as the project go along, I'll be videotaping it, just kind of showing you guys what I'm doing and what I'm thinking and all that kind of stuff. And so what I'm going to do right now is just put a beveled edge on this. This is 11 gauge. So I'm just going to put a beveled edge on it and try and get enough penetration to go from the front to the rear. And in that way I won't have to weld the back side to get strength. Hopefully I can penetrate through from front to back, and I can just, you know, grind this one side and get it smooth and everything. Then I can use this piece as the other side for this. And actually this looks like a pretty nice piece. I can do something with this. Just have to make another one like it. You know, make it 3D. I'll come up with something with this. This is a nice piece. And that's why I've been saying over the few years that I've been doing this, when you cut out pieces, always look at the pieces that fall on the floor, because oftentimes you can make some of your best sculptures from a piece that's lying on the floor. We call them drops, because I mean you didn't think of the piece, and most likely no one else will either. You was cutting out something totally different, and that shape was left. Quite a few of our sculptures are made like that, you know, just with drops, something that you know we could never have came up with in our own mind, and it's just something that just happens. So when you cut a piece, look at the piece that falls on the ground, because you never know, you might be able to come up with something else, you know, really nice with it. Well, let me put a bevel on the edge of this thing, and then I'll get them lined up, and I'll move the camera in so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. And again, I'm just working with 11 gauge, and I'm going to just put a little bevel on the end here. Alright, so I just put this little bevel right down on the end, and I put one on the other piece, you know, before I started filming. And what this will allow me to do is get more penetration on that. I'll probably run a root pass, then a cover pass. But let me go and get this set up. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is clamp this down to the table, both pieces. I don't want this, you know, to raise up, and I'm going to leave a little gap in here. I'm using ER70S -2, and this is 3/32 rod. So I'm just kind of stick it in here just to give myself a little gap. I'm not going quite the thickness of the rod, but it'll be close because I want to get some penetration in here. And the other thing I better do, I have these lines, these grit lines. So what I better do is get this lined up on those grit lines, or this thing could come out crooked. And I do not want that. So let's get it lined up as best I can. And I'm going to clamp this side down, then I'll kind of move this other piece around. I'll put these bars on here just to make sure it's laying completely flat. Just clamp it down good. And I'm going to put this clamp in this position just to keep it from trying to raise up, you know, from the heat. Let me get my rod in here, get a little gap. Make sure it's straight. It's pretty good. I think I'll go with that. So now, I'll take this bar, put it across here. Clamp it down. And I'll clamp it down here. So what that will do is get this nice and level, you know, the same height anyway. So one won't be higher than the other. Then I'll take this clamp and clamp this side down. So I'll just be kind of working my way in here between all this stuff to you know, to get to the seam. So let me turn my welder on. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a couple of tacks on here. Maybe 1, 2, 3 tacks. And then I'm going to raise this up and put a piece of aluminum under here so I don't weld to the table. Because I would hate to get this thing welded up and then can't get it off the table because it's welded to the table. But I'm doing it like this just so I'll know that it's nice and level. All right, here we go. All right. I have it where I want it, so now I'm gonna undo everything, get a piece of aluminum, lay it down here, put this on, clamp it down to the aluminum, and then weld it from there. All right, let me grab this piece of aluminum. All right, let me get this on here. I'll put my clamps back on. All right, guys, I got it clamped down. I'm just gonna weld a little bit, and I'm gonna let it cool down. Weld a little bit more, let it cool. Okay, here we go. Just getting right down a little valley in there.